Hello everyone, Giltar here with a Transformers action figure review. This time we'll be looking at the War for Cybertron Bumblebee figure from the Generations line of Transformers toys. It's a deluxe class figure, and depending on where you're at, it can retail anywhere from $10 to $15 American. As I'm Canadian, deluxe class figures in this country usually start off at $15 normally. However, I actually did not buy this from a local store. I bought it from an online store called TF Source, which is based in the United States. I ordered all 4 figures from the first wave of the Generations line, which includes War for Cybertron Bumblebee here. Now the figure itself, I think looks great. It is from the War for Cybertron game, which I have yet to play, but from what I can recall, it's basically spot on for accuracy in terms of its vehicle mode or alternate mode form here. I really like the look of the vehicle form. I think all around it reminds me of Bumblebee. It's sort of a yellow, chubby type of vehicle, which I always associate with the character of Bumblebee throughout its different incarnations in Transformers history. A very nice look to it. I like the design where there's really no obvious passenger compartment to it, although there is clear sort of smoky colored plastic on the sides, which allow you to see within the vehicle form. But the other black parts are just, I believe, painted on, so it's only the sides here where you can actually see into the interior, and all you're really seeing is just robot parts, the upper and lower arms or forearms of Bumblebee here. Now, there is one problem with the vehicle form in that when you look on the underside, it is a bit hollow in this area. And aside from that, though, it looks pretty nice. It doesn't have too many bits and pieces of kibble or robot parts. You can store the handgun or the pistol in the rear section of the interior of the car mode. And yeah, I really like the look of the vehicle form. Now, some people, for example, TF Fan Maiku, who I subscribe to, he reviewed War for Cybertron Bumblebee a little while ago, and he mentioned that he had difficulty closing the gaps in certain parts of the vehicle mode. And the reason being is that there are some parts of the transformation that are really precise and demand sort of exact placement of certain parts. For example, the forearms have pegs that peg into holes or ports on the upper arms when you're transforming it for vehicle form. If you don't place them just right, they will cause gaps in the vehicle form to show up because things aren't aligned correctly. Now, just like War for Cybertron Optimus Prime, Bumblebee here is ranked at a difficulty level 4 out of a possible scale of 1 to 5, so it is a more advanced transformation design for this toy. But just like with War for Cybertron Optimus Prime, I find this toy to have a really fun and involving transformation process. I really do like it because it's of its exact nature. Some people have called War for Cybertron Bumblebee a shell former. I don't quite agree with that, because to me a shell former is something that relies upon the usage of parts to create a shell in one mode or the other, or in sort of in both. War for Cybertron Bumblebee is similar to a shell former, but everything has its place. Usually shell former is a derogatory term for a poorly designed Transformer toy. In this case, I really can't agree that Bumblebee is a shell former, just because it doesn't sort of have all these parts that fold up and hang off a part of the robot form. And you'll see once I transform this figure that things actually do move around, and they do have a purpose. So again, I really don't view it as a shell former. So that being said, let's get this into robot form, or humanoid robot form. So the first thing I would do is just simply remove the handgun or pistol from the back here. You just unpeg it and free it up. There you go. And as I've said before in previous videos, I don't intend to show people the proper or best way to transform things. This is just simply how I would do it. The first thing I would do is just free up the front portions here of the vehicle. They tab into the sides there. And I'm just going to free, by untabbing these sides here, parts of the legs. And basically you just unpeg them because they're pegged into the interior here. There are circular ports or holes. I'm just going to take a moment here and elevate the camera so you guys can get a better look at the transformation process. But yeah, that's basically what I've done so far. I've just basically freed the legs and the front portions of the car here, which actually are part of the forearms. The next thing I would do is just free up additional parts of the arms here and just untab them, and there's a lot of tabs that lock into place, and it's a very, like I said earlier, a very sort of precise and somewhat demanding transformation, because you can't sort of halfway do certain things. You really have to do things correctly in order to, to get the transformation just right. But I really do enjoy it. I think it's a really fun transformation design, just because it is something that is so well engineered and designed, in my opinion. Now, some people might be sort of daunted or put off by the alleged level of difficulty. I would say don't be too afraid of it. It is fairly simple. It's not necessarily straightforward, but it's not complicated. It's just complex. There's many steps to it. But like anything else, if you just practice it a couple of times, you're going to find that you get better at it. And this is not a necessarily difficult transformation. It just has quite a few steps that go into it, like a lot of smaller steps that add up to a larger overall transformation process. But it's quite fun, in my opinion. And I'll say this: if I can do this on camera, then anyone else out there shouldn't have any major issues with playing around with this figure. So I've got the legs transformed here. It's actually a very stable base. I really do like the design of the legs of Bumblebee. So we're going to move on to the torso next. So we're just going to flip around a couple of things here. I'm going to flip down the arms. And the arms themselves have a really interesting design. What was once the front portion of the vehicle now fold back onto the forearms. And you do get sort of large, bulky forearms on Bumblebee, which I do find to be kind of amusing, because he's usually more of a smaller robot, but he looks pretty buff. He kind of has like Popeye forearms, these huge forearms on him, which I find funny. But that's just me. I find certain things amusing that other people may not. And here's the head reveal. And as you can see, it's a really G1 styled, or Generation 1 styled Bumblebee head sculpt, which I really do like. And I believe that's pretty much it for the transformation. So here we have, now actually I should probably elevate the camera a little more. Here we have War for Cybertron Bumblebee in its robot humanoid form. A very interesting looking figure. Some people don't like the sort of bulkiness of the torso. I do like it because I'm a fan of Generation 1 Bumblebee. And Generation 1 Bumblebee had a broad torso. The rear portion of the vehicle becomes its backpack, and the sort of front portion, or the hood portion of the vehicle, becomes the torso. And it does create a sort of round, bulbous, rotund figure, but I like it. I mean, it's Bumblebee. He shouldn't be too buff, so even though it has like these large forearms, he's got a chubby midsection, which I find amusing, but in a good way. I'm not laughing at Bumblebee. I'm laughing with him. So anyways, this pistol or handgun accessory, it looks kind of goofy, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's not often that Bumblebee gets handguns or weapons at all, so it's nice to see this particular figure get some sort of armament. I really like the design of the hands, because the hands are not the typical sort of clenched fists with like the 5mm peg hole there. These are actually open hands with sculpted 5mm peg holes there, open-ended holes, which sounds funny. I don't know if that's technically a hole, but they're designed so that while they have the appearance of an open hand, they can accommodate basically a 5mm peg weapon handle or grip, so that it can hold the weapon but have the more, in my opinion, more pleasing appearance of an open hand. War for Cybertron Optimus Prime, for example, had the sort of typical clenched fist with the hole there for gripping. I'm not a big fan of that sort of blocky, chunky look for hand designs on Transformers, but it's functional, it does its job. But again, I really like the look of the hand sculpts on Bumblebee here. And finally, the figure actually does have a pair of these sort of energy blades on the forearms that they're not spring-loaded or anything, but they are sort of on a ratcheted joint, so you can conceal them or flip them out. It has one for each forearm, if you can see that there. Very interesting design. I can't wait to play the video game because the first character I'll use, and hopefully my favorite character, will be Bumblebee, because it's my favorite Transformers character, period. And in every video game that I play, not that there are that many of Transformers, when I can use Bumblebee, I will. So yeah, that's the figure itself. So let's head into my final thoughts about this particular action figure, this toy. I say I'm going to recommend it, unless you have some sort of aversion or dislike of the Bumblebee design and or character. You know, if you fall into that kind of category, then obviously you're not going to want to get this figure. But if you're a Transformers fan, if you have any fondness at all for the Bumblebee sort of character, whether it's just the general idea of the Bumblebee character or the G1 Bumblebee or even the live-action movie Bumblebee, this is a nice addition to your collection. Really great articulation all around. It can strike many different poses. It has the ability to bend its limbs in a variety of ways. I mean, in any kind of pose that you want, you could put Bumblebee in, most likely. It's a very posable figure. A lot of potential for display, and if you can balance it right, I'm pretty sure you could probably get it into a sort of sidekick pose there, really contorted. So yeah, the articulation ability is undoubtedly great. I think the sculpt looks good, for sure. It definitely has great likeness and accuracy to the character animation model from the War for Cybertron video game. And to me, it just like War for Cybertron Optimus Prime, it combines the best elements of G1 aesthetics with the current Transformers design aesthetics we find in things like the live-action movie designs, where the character designs are a little more mechanical, a little more machine-like. Now, as far as accessories go, I mean, it only has a handgun, but it does have built-in sort of energy blades. So this is one Bumblebee figure that is well armed, without a doubt. And again, I really like the look of the hand sculpts. I hope Hasbro and Takara Tomy continue on with using open-handed hand sculpts on the figures, but also provide this sort of gap there that can accommodate 5mm peg weapons, because then that way you have both an open hand but also the ability to hold weapons, which I think is a really great design point. It's probably my favorite design point of the figure. Now, one thing I do sort of dislike about the figure is that it does have light piping plastic on the back of the head sculpt, but for whatever reason the eyes are painted over so that basically no light can come through. It's kind of an odd choice, and it is kind of a shame, because I really do like light piping on Transformers figures, just because of the appearance of glowing eyes and their machine-like beings. I like that visual effect. But yeah, overall, it's just a really great figure, a wonderful toy, somewhat of a hybrid between a high-end action figure because of the complexity of the engineering design, but also it has the durability and play value of your standard, $10 toy that you can find at a Walmart or a Target or a Toys R Us. So to me, it has sort of best of the both worlds of the higher end and lower end toys or action figures. And for between $10 to $15, it's a really great deal. Just a really great example of modern, current Transformers toy design, in my opinion. So that's my review of War for Cybertron Bumblebee from the Generations line of toys. I hope you guys enjoyed this review and got something out of it. And my next review, and my last review for the Generations Wave 1 series of toys, will be Generations Drift. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video.